And welcome aboard, everybody. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital, talking New York Jets. We are presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals. NERPCNY.com. Find out more. Today's video brought to you by our friends at the Floral Gardens in Cicero, part of the Allen Floral Group. And you see that little scroll running at the bottom of our screen. That is a 10% offer for you. Get 10% off your Valentine's Day items, flowers, Mylar balloons, stuffed animals. They have all kinds of cute things. The Allen Floral Group, you just go to allenfloralgroup.com and plug in the promo code MANCHILD10 and you get yourself a nice 10% off. Always nice to do that. Be thoughtful for Valentine's Day. Always good to be thoughtful. All right, time to go inside the Jets. We do it every week with our Jets insider who's been out of town. He's been at the Senior Bowl and the Super Bowl. He's been a little busy, but he's back slumming with us again today. The one, the only from ESPN New York and the Jake Asman Show. It is Jake Asman. How are you, Jake?
Missed you guys. Always good to join.
Yes, very much so. So, Jake, I imagine, you're getting a lot of flowers and chocolates from Asmaniacs here. So Valentine's Day, an important date on the Asman calendar?
I hope, man. I'll tell you what, it's not cheap to travel back-to-back weeks for these events. So I'll take all the super chats and gifted memberships we could get because it goes a long way towards making these trips possible. That's for sure. Grateful for the audience that they could support a Jet show year-round, given how bleak it's been for the Jets for so long.
Well, Jake, before we get into the Jet stuff, any stories you could share? You obviously had magnificent guests for the Jake Asman Show, the Senior Bowl, the Super Bowl. You had all these current Jets players on the show, analysts, insiders. I mean, you had a little bit of everything. Take us behind the scenes of some of that activities and your role as being the MC host of trying to figure it all out with, I imagine, a lot going on at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? I mean, I didn't even realize that Harrison Phillips and A.D. Mitchell were doing interviews. We just happened to run into their handler, and I was talking with them, and they said, "Oh, we have A.D." And then I said, "Great, we'd love to get him on the show." And then they're like, "We also have Harrison Phillips this afternoon." I go, "Even better." So, and that interview got a lot of attention, and I thank you for aggregating some of those clips because that helped put it on people's radar. It was just kind of really a chaotic environment as it usually is, and you just kind of never know who you're going to run into. You never know which guests are potentially going to be there. Some of the stuff gets scheduled out in advance, but the Jets, unfortunately, they're not a marquee team right now. They don't have a ton of stars. So I get wind of Brees, or last year Quincy and Jermaine were both doing interviews, right? So you could kind of get wind of that from some of the bigger PR firms that are working with these guys. But I had no clue any of the current Jets like Tyrod and even Hendon Hooker were going to be there. So it was kind of scrambling on the fly, but I was proud of the fact that we were able to get any active Jet on the team on the show last week. So that was a lot of fun.
It was fascinating to me too, Jake, because I heard that Harrison Phillips interview is that he was, very much, again, you expect a current player to be in the corner of a coach, but he was talking a lot about the Jets culture and what he believes Aaron Glenn is in the middle of doing, and that he believes it's kind of working, even though the results obviously weren't anything of what any Jet fan was hoping for. Give me your thoughts on that, and were you surprised by his comments? Because they were pretty emphatic.
Harrison Phillips is a winner. That guy is a great leader. He will be a team captain this year, without a doubt. I'd be shocked if he's not voted one of the defensive captains. I thought it was really interesting. He said this was really the first time he's had a chance to truly be kind of in the leadership role. Like he told me off air that, him and Glenn will talk regularly after games about different things the team needs and kind of what Harrison Phillips is thinking. So they have a very tight relationship. So I'm not surprised that he's backing his coach. I think Aaron Glenn needs more Harrison Phillips, right? I think he needs guys. He needs 52 other players that share that mentality. If the Jets are going to be able to turn it around under Glenn. So, regardless of how it works out for Glenn, I want Harrison Phillips around going forward. I think he's a winning player. I think he's a great leader. I think he embodies everything you want in trying to turn around a dogmat franchise that the Jets have been. So I think ultimately, TBD if, the belief in Glenn will actually pay off. I hope it does, but I was really impressed talking with him both on and off the air, during Radio Row Week.
Yeah, and Jake, I don't know, because I saw the interview, but I didn't know if you were able to tell him off air or tell a different story on one of the Jake Asman shows. But Harrison Phillips, when you ask him sort of his message to Jet fans, he tells this story that I've never heard of before about, have you ever heard the story of twin sons of an alcoholic father? And then he tells this story that, one kid, spoiler alert, one kid gets messed up and they go down the dark path that, would lead from an alcoholic father. The other one was perfectly fine and had great success, but it was all, and when they were both asked of the reason, oh, it's because I had an alcoholic father. Oh, it's because I had an alcoholic father, that their past went to these different places for that. Had you ever heard that story before? And again, that to me was sort of the seismic moment from your interview that just shows, wow, just his leadership, his storytelling, and how that I imagine is very impactful on what was mostly a young locker room.
I had never heard that story, Paul, and I was blown away to a point where I actually texted you, hey, man, make sure you get the end of this. Like, this is, to me, the best part of the interview here. What a story. Great, like, just storytelling skills, by the way. Maybe Harrison Phillips going to broadcasting.
Sure, there you go.
Someday. But just that story kind of embodies who he is. And, like, you ask the generic, like, what's your message to the fans? And you sometimes get, like, a non-answer. Like AD Mitchell was like thinking what I'm like, you could literally just say, like, we're going to do everything in your power, everything in our power to try and turn things around. Like, that's all you got to say. And like, you never know how a player is going to necessarily answer it. I've never heard that though. And the fact that he took time to actually, tell that entire story, I thought it was great. I'm glad that it got the recognition that it deserves, because that kind of just takes you inside the perspective of Harrison Phillips. So I do think he's going to be one of the team captains this year.
Talk with Jake Asman. It's the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. Don't forget to pop that subscribe button, become part of our growing family. Jake, I loved the interview, and maybe it's because I'm a fan. I grew up in New York City, in Queens, before I migrated up here to Central New York. But I was a huge listener and a huge fan of the Mike and the Mad Dog program. And Chris Russo was down there, and he did sit down with you. And I thought it was a fascinating interview. I'm very, very intrigued by him. He may have the quirky voice and all that crazy stuff, but he's become quite the entrepreneur. He's created his own channel, obviously, in the Sirius XM world. What were your impressions of the Mad Dog?
Man, I love Doggy. I've gotten to know him a little bit over the last few Super Bowls he's come on. I'm one of the hosts on his station on a part-time basis. And Chris Russo's from my hometown on Long Island. He didn't go to the same high school I went to because he went to private school at that point, but we grew up in the same neighborhood. So I've known him through that for a while. And I grew up just like you, Jim, a Mike and the Mad Dog listener. So it's always great to talk to him. What I love the most about Chris, what you see on the air is exactly how he is off the air. Nothing changes. Like that is always him. He's never like on or off. Like, he's just always Chris Mad Dog Russo, and he's the best. And I love seeing that interview was one of the more viewed videos I posted that week. That was cool to see that after even all these years since he was last on in New York, people still care. And I think the fact that he's on First Take every week now, he's kind of had like a career renaissance. There's so many people that didn't really know who Mad Dog was. Maybe they don't pay for Sirius Radio, so they never heard him do his show. He's been gone from the fan for a long time already, 2008. So I think it's really cool to see like the career renaissance that he's had these last few years. He's a great guy. He always says yes when I ask him to come on. So I look forward to that conversation every year.
All right, let's get back to the New York Jets. And the Jets have announced officially their offensive hires. Their staff is being put together. Of course, Frank Reich is at the head of this as the offensive coordinator for the Jets. And a big name, Bill Musgrave, was among this group. He's a former Dallas Cowboys quarterback. He's been a quarterback's coach or offensive coordinator basically the entirety of his 30 years coaching. And most of that has been at the NFL level, although there was a few stops in college as well there for Bill. We have the nostalgia, Jake, for both of us being around the same age, for Seth Ryan, the son of Rex Ryan, and grandson of Buddy Ryan, of course, on this staff. What'd you make of this offensive staff? It does seem to have this kind of nice combination of old and young sort of together here.
Yeah, the fact that Seth Ryan is the pass game coordinator is just wild to think that he's on a defensive coach first and foremost. But the fact that he's going from a tight ends coach, assistant tight ends coach, to a pass game coordinator, it's a big jump. You like the fact that if you just look at him and remove the last name and just evaluate him based on the resume, he's been around some good offensive coaches, right? He was in Detroit with Ben Johnson the last couple of years. So I like that aspect of the hire. They got some, you said it best, they have a mix of some of the olds and some of the youth to the staff. Ultimately, Frank Reich's the head coach of the offense, so to speak. He's going to bring in some guys with him from Stanford, so no one should be surprised. And I think given the fact that we were so critical of the Jets hiring predominantly a running back coach who never played quarterback, for them to now pivot a year later and hire a guy who played quarterback and for 20 years has always coached quarterbacks and has been an OC for 3 different teams, I think it's a really good hire. So I'm not going to criticize Aaron Glenn for that one at all. I thought that needed to be done. And I think ultimately the staff, look, I'm not going to sit here and try and put lipstick on a pig. I don't think anyone's dying to hire Frank Reich as their OC in 2026, but I think they could have done a lot worse. So all things considered, I don't hate it.
Talking with Jake Asman, our Jets insider. It's the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital, presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals. All right, Jake, the Combine, it will be here before we know it. Are you a fan of the Underwear Olympics? Do you glean information, good information out of the Combine? Give me your take on the Combine.
So I glean information, but it's typically not about the draft prospects. I like going every year because you start to really hear some rumors and some stuff ends up actually being true. Like I left Indy last year to do my show that week, and I felt like 99% sure the Jets were going to sign Justin Fields. I said it on the show, turned out to be true. So you kind of start to hear like the rumblings of like what some of these teams' intentions are in free agency. So I like it from that standpoint. I like it from like just a networking standpoint. I like it from a content standpoint, but I don't really get that into the actual underwear Olympics of it all. In fact, I usually fly in Monday. I'm out Friday just as the drills are starting Thursday and Friday of that week. So I don't even actually go to Lucas Oil and watch any of it. I just like to be there for the press conferences, talk to some of the prospects, and try and glean information on whatever the Jets and some of these other teams around the league are going to try and do.
Yeah, it seems like kind of a scotch and steaks kind of event. You know, you got to bring a little bankroll. I know going down to the Super Bowl, Jake, I even heard you talk a little bit about it on the air, how expensive it is to be on Radio Row. And
$1,100 for Wi-Fi, Jim. $1,100 for Ethernet. It's insane. Yeah, Combine, knock on wood, they haven't charged the last 2 years I've done it. Hopefully, assuming I go and get approved and everything, they don't do it this year. But yeah, it's tough, man. And you're right about the steaks. I mean, everyone gathers at like the 3 different main steakhouses for dinner. You never know who you're going to run into. There's like 2 spots people go out at. So like you could run into like anyone in football, coach, a GM, your favorite beat reporter, your favorite national NFL insider. You know, you never know who you're going to see. You just know that they're in football. I saw the infamous Starbucks up close where Ian Rappaport and Jordan Schultz apparently almost got into a fist fight. So there's always something crazy at the Combine every year. And Indy's an awesome city. Like it's walkable. They got their scooters everywhere, which I enjoy. So I'm a big fan of the Combine every year.
Jake, you're a bit of a social butterfly, so at these Combine events where you're rubbing elbows and running into people, what's the, standard operating procedure? The Combine for me to go to is on my bucket list. It sounds like a super cool, I'm a draft nerd. And to your point, the sort of free agency rumors and stuff that all our shows are built off of, all that wonderful speculation. What's the MO? Because like you're at some of these restaurants, you're like, holy freaking crap, that could be, I'm trying to, Sean McVay or something. He's at a booth. Like, you got to keep being yourself, but also like there's sort of a wow factor. What's allowed for who you're allowed to talk to, rub elbows with.
You can talk to anyone.
Work?
You can do anything you want, really. I think people get intimidated. Like I have a running bit where when I see Brian Schottenheimer, I just yell out, "Shotty, 2010 Jets for life." Ask Will Parkinson about that one. Like I'll say anything to anyone. I'll give you a great story from the Super Bowl this past week. I was in the bathroom and Trevor Lawrence was in there, and I didn't want to like approach him as we were both at the urinal, taking a leak next to each other.
It sounds like my Harold Baines story. I want to see how this one ends. I got a great story on that one.
So once we get to like the sink area, we wash our hands. I turn to him and I go, "You ever think about how different your life would have been if the Jets actually drafted you?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've thought about it a couple times or whatever." And then he goes, "I'm wearing like a shirt with my logo on it." He goes, "You a Jets guy?" And then before I can answer, he goes, "I see the planes on your shirt right there." And I go, "Yeah, man, always been a fan of yours. Like great season, quick talk or whatever." And like, that was just like my quick conversation with Trevor Lawrence. I actually took like a selfie to send to one of my friends is a Jaguars beat reporter who knows Trevor well. So that's where that selfie I tweeted out. That was the idea behind it. But then, same thing with Bryce Young, same exact thing. It was in the bathroom. Bryce Young was there, waited for him to come out. And then I was like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on Frank Reich getting hired?" He's like, "Frank got hired?" I go, "Yeah, he's the Jets OC." He goes, "Oh, that's awesome, man. I'm really happy for him." I go, "You guys have a good relationship?" He goes, "We do." He goes, like, I obviously the record was the record, but he taught me a lot. He's a great teacher, he said. And I kind of like tweeted a version of that. And so like, again, you just never know who you're going to run into, who you could talk to. I'll give you a great Combine story too. This was last year. So Mike McDaniel's the head coach of the Dolphins. And we had a waitress at the Prime Steakhouse. And I gave her $20. And I said, if you could go up to that table right there, it was Mike McDaniel and Bobby Slowick, who's now the Dolphins OC. But Slowick and McDaniel are really good friends. I go, if you could go up to that table right there and just say JETS, 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 I'll pay you $20. She did it, gave her the money, all that. McDaniel got the chant. He's like looking around, where is it? And I waved, and he thought it was funny or whatever. So like, you can do really whatever you want. Like, who cares? You know, like, it's at the end of the day, like, it's sports and entertainment. I think we're trying to have fun. Like, you know, as long as you're respectful, I don't think it's that big of a deal to say hello to Sean McVay if you're at the same restaurant as him.
So Jerry Seinfeld has that show, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of fun, right? This is like, you know, meeting celebrities in bathrooms. I'll give you my quick story, Jake. I'll keep this one nice and short, all right? So I'm at a Knicks playoff game. Timeout. I'm going to bolt for the bathroom here. Get out of my season ticket seat, run for the bathroom, get in there, get to the front of the line, get to the urinal. I look to my right, and I just noticed a guy. He's just wearing this beautiful leather jacket. You know, you're like, this thing's $1,000 jacket. I mean, what the heck is it? Wow, that's nice. And then he turns towards me. I look at him, and it's Harold Baines, the baseball player. And he just has a recognizable face. I just picked it up right away, you know? So he looks at me. I look at him. He sees that I'm like kind of starstruck. And I just turn to him, and I go, I without voicing it, because this is a packed bathroom, I just lipped to him Harold Baines, his name, right? And he nods up and down, and then he just turns to me and goes, and I go, cool. And I finished and walked out. Didn't even have a conversation. It was just like a moment where I was just like, I recognize you. It's cool. Nice to meet you. Even though we're not each other, we shared we're right next to each other.
I love that.
And let's move on, baby.
I had something like that on a subway. This was like 2 years ago.
Oh, great.
It was with Jenna Fisher plays Pam Beasley on The Office. So she lives on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. At the time, I was staying at a friend's place because I didn't live in New York yet. I was just in town doing some radio. So I happened to be living up there for the week. And I'm taking the subway at 72nd Street. And at this point, there's like no one at the subway stop. It's very like quiet. But I turn to my right, and there's Jenna Fisher. She's wearing a mask at that time, but COVID's long over. So like the mask, I think, was like to like keep her identity like private. She's with her husband and her 2 kids. And we get on the subway, and I noticed it was her. And like, I had that look, and she saw like, I gave that look of like, oh, like, I know who you are, that type of thing. But then the subway got packed, and I was chill about it. Like, I didn't say anything. I just gave her that nod of like, I'm acknowledging you're with your family, not going to bother you.
Right.
At a subway, I get why you're wearing the mask. And like, I think she appreciated that, just kind of reading body language, that like, it was like that. I know you're Pam Beasley. All right. I'm not Jim. We'll let you be with your Jim, and we'll call it a day. But like, I've been there before.
Jets Insider Jake has been breaking it down with us. It's the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital, presented by our friends at Northeast Roofing Professionals. Today's video brought to you by our friends at the Floral Gardens in Cicero. You can see that running scroll beneath us. You can get 10% off your flowers for Valentine's Day. Take advantage of that. We'll take 30 seconds, then we're back with Jake. I want to talk to him about the Jets' 2 draft picks in the first round. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Don't forget to pop that subscribe button. Be part of our growing community. Jake Asman joining us. We're talking all things Jets. All right, Combine's over now, Jet. I know it's not really, but let's imagine it. Combine's over, and now we're making our way. So let's do way too early Jet prediction here. Assuming they don't trade, Jake, and they stick with 2 and 16, do you got a tandem you like? You could give me positions, or if you want to give me names, I'd love to hear names. What do you think?
Ooh, this is a great one. I'm going to go Arvell Reese at 2 and Mekhi Lemon at 16. If they could get the best defensive player and a guy who I think will be a stud receiver in the league, you address both sides of the ball, I'd feel really good about what the Jets did. I think in a perfect world, they're able to move out of one of these spots and get more picks. I just don't know how feasible that is given, the state of the quarterback position in general, where there's not a ton of these guys going early. Typically, teams trade up the most for that. So assuming no trade backs, I think they stick and pick, and they end up with a combination of Reese and Lemon, or even David Bailey and Lemon, or Bain and Lemon. I think if you're a Jet fan, you feel pretty good about it.
I love you giving some nice pass catchers some help to Garrett Wilson, but who the hell's throwing him the football here, Jake? And is there a hint? The Jets hired Bill Musgrave. We brought him up earlier. He's got the sterling resume, and I've seen you talk about it on the, critically acclaimed, the Jake Asman Show, of course. And so I talked about it as well. Bill Musgrave, former OC of Derek Carr. Derek Carr, maybe this retirement thing isn't for me. Jets once pursued one Derek Carr pretty aggressively before they took a pivot on Aaron Rodgers Avenue. Would it rev your car? Would you want to put that car in drive, Jake? Of Jets, Derek Carr, that reunion here with Bill Musgrave where he had a lot of success.
It's not the worst option. I'm not as down on it as I've seen some in the fan base are. There's just not a whole lot of great options. So Derek Carr almost by default becomes one of the better ones. I just worry about him staying healthy. He's had such injury problems in his career. I get it. Oh, he's healthy now. He didn't take a year of hits, but like you're just never the same when you're that injury prone. And he had shoulder surgery. So what's that going to be like? I'd be a little wary of just like making Carr my guy with no competition. Now, if you brought in Derek Carr and still added another veteran and had him compete, maybe you draft someone on day 2 and that's your room for the year. All right, like that's a real plan you could sell me on. But Derek Carr all by himself, I don't hate it. I can't hate it. He's just automatically among the better options. But I don't love it as much as some do just because, they hired his OC he was good with a decade ago. Like, I don't know how much that matters in 2026.
Jake, if the Jets do have to address quarterback one way or the other. So let's assume that they don't take a quarterback in the first round, as you're suggesting, and they fill some other need positions. Who's your flyer? Who's your guy? And how early are you pulling the trigger if you're the Jets?
Me personally, the earliest I would take any quarterback would be the 33rd pick. That to me even still feels a little steep, but I don't think you'll be able to get one if you wait. After that, if Ty Simpson falls out of round 1, or if Trinidad Chambliss is in the draft. And the guy that I thought was pretty good at the Senior Bowl was Garrett Nussmeier. You could see why a year ago people were hyping him up as a talented player. If they did something like that, the earliest I'd be comfortable with them doing it is that first, second round pick. I think in a perfect world, they're able to trade out of 33 or pick 44 in round 2, acquire a third, and use that third they acquire to potentially take a Garrett Nussmeier type on day 2, Drew Aller, insert, whichever quarterback you want. I think that logically would make sense. I just don't love these quarterbacks. And I know the Jets have 3 firsts in 2027. I want to wait till then. Better QB class in all likelihood. If Glenn can't prove he's the real deal, he'll be gone. You could pair up that new coach with the new quarterback and you go from there. I think logically that would make the most sense. I just know that this regime probably knows they might not get 2027 and they'll take a swing. I just don't want them to do it in the first round. I think it'd be a mistake.
All right, Jake. Manchild forced you to do a double dip that you like in the draft. Get the scuba gear on. Are we making a free agent splash? $82 million. That's a 4th most in the National Football League. Pick your place where you want to spend that money. The Jets have a cajillion needs. That is an official number. I checked that out. It is a cajillion needs for the New York Jets. So are they making a splash? What's your Jake Asman prediction splash the Jets make? Where's it happening? Because remember, Jake, I don't scream this as loudly now, but Andre Cisco called it on the Jake Asman free agency pre-show. I felt pretty good about it at the time. Andre Cisco didn't really work out with the Jets, so I'm saying it a little quieter, but I just want it still to be known that I predicted it. So what's the Jake Asman prediction? You have an opportunity to give it back to us. Your prediction is what that you'll be bragging about. What splash?
It's going to be boring, but I mean, I think the Jets are going to sign Anzalone from the Lions. I think Glenn's going to want to get his guy to be the captain of his defense. He's calling the defense this year. Anzalone knows exactly what Glenn wants. I think that's going to be one of their free agent signings. We could debate if that's a big splash or not. I don't personally think it is, but he's a good player still. He would help. I think he's not a lock to sign with the Jets because maybe Detroit will find the money to keep him and maybe he'd take a discount to stay if he really wants to. But I could see that being, a priority free agent sign for the Jets.
All right, come on. Give me something a little sexier, Jake. Come on. Let's put on a different outfit here. So, okay, Alex Anzalone. Okay, that makes sense. I could see it. The Lions connection. But give me something a little juicier. We're going to St. Elmo's. They're in Indianapolis. Give me a juicier steak to bite into. Give me somebody, a name that you're circling. We got a lot of money to spend. Alex Anzalone, I don't think he'll cost some money, of course. But give me something like splashy. Come on, Jake. I'm just going to peer pressure you and try to get something.
Well, I mean, I would love Linderbaum. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what their approach is. A year ago, they didn't want to sign any free agent that was 30 or above besides Josh Reynolds to a 1-year deal. They got to win. So I think they might, look past that if they're going to sign Anzalone. I mean, DeMario Davis, by the way, is a free agent as well. If we're going to just throw out Glenn guys, I mean, why not make Davis a Jet for the 3rd time in his tenure? He was at Radio Row doing every interview. I think they're going to look to hire sign guys that know Aaron Glenn, but they also just need some star power if they can. Again, it's free agency, so it's tough. But if you added Linderbaum to your line, and you already had now Tippmann moving to one of the guard spots to go with the 2 bookend tackles, you have a top 5 offensive line in the sport for years to come. So, like, I'd strongly consider that. You're not paying Olu, you're not paying Membu for several more years. You can line up the Linderbaum contract where by the time it's over, then the money that you'd be paying to Olu and Membu and extensions would start to kick in. I'd build a super line. And, regardless who the quarterback is, they had protection. You have a good running game. If Glenn could fix the defense, I think you could be competitive next year. Like, that might be a path to it. So that'd be something I'd strongly consider.
All right, final one here, Jake, just because these stories have been fun that everyone's been going back and forth on all these celebrity sightings. We'll have to do another episode on that. Is there any other story that you could tell? Because what was that, your 7th Super Bowl that you were at, Jake? Is that right?
Yeah, 7th Super Bowl.
Okay, so is there another celebrity run-in that you had? Because these stories are just revving my engine, or anything of these Super Bowl things that maybe someone hasn't heard from you before about the Jake Asman show on the road of a situation that happened?
Well, my favorite Super Bowl was my first. It was in Houston for the Patriots-Falcons Super Bowl. I was a senior in college at that point, and I got to go with 2 of my best friends. We did a talk show together, and we got Ithaca to approve us going down there. My friend Jake had an aunt and uncle that lived in Houston, so the school just had to pay for our flights, and I took care of the credential process. I knew someone at the NFL who gave us the hookup, and that's how we kind of got started. And that first week was just so surreal. I mean, one of my favorite broadcasters ever is Michael Kay, who, of course, is the longtime TV voice of the Yankees. He does a talk show on ESPN New York. He was in the afternoon slot for 20-something years, and we had him on the show when we were down there as college kids. And I'll never forget this. The interview went really well. Said goodbye. Thanks for coming on. All good. The next day, he comes walking over to our table. And I'm thinking, oh, God, did we piss him off? Like, why is Michael Kay just unsolicited coming back over to, like, a college kid's table? Like, our tables are nowhere near each other in the convention center. And he goes, I should have said this yesterday, but it really hit me later on. I can't believe you guys are in college. Like, I do a lot of interviews, but that was one of the better interviews I've ever done. You guys have a real future in this. Like, best of luck. Let me know what I could do to help. And, like, to hear that from someone that, like, I've grown up listening to and have so much respect for, that was surreal. So I'll never forget that when I think about, like, all-time great, like, Radio Row moments.
Hey, you just gotta, the impact, right? That Michael Kay, he took a few minutes out of his day, decided to do that, and that you just told it however many years later, that story, man.
10 years ago already. Yeah, that was 2016.
Shout out to the celebrity or idol people in our lives. We all have them here on this show, man. The fact that he did that, again, to me, I don't, I obviously respect Michael Kay for everything he brought. He's not my idol in that same way that he is to you, but, like, that's so cool. That's, like, awesome. And now you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. And that
now
moment
I work
had
with
this
him,
great
which is,
impact.
what the coolest thing is, like, I grew up listening to him. I fill in when he's out now. We've actually done a show together, believe it or not, last year, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, it's really cool, man. I mean, it's this business, like, could be tough, and everyone knows that if you're in it, but there's also really cool moments that I think we all have to try and remember when we're dealing with the BS that sometimes happens when you're in, the media field.
Oh God, do I share this story? I guess I will. We'll end it with
boy.
this.
Oh, God.
Michael Kay, you bring him up. Respect him as a broadcaster, but it was another Knick game. It was I was in.
Were
the
you guys
front
at the
row.
urinal again? Oh boy!
No, I was in the front row, sitting in the front row because my wife, her boss, was at the time, she worked for BMI Publishing, which is the big music publishing company in Manhattan. I had met members of U2 that were clients of theirs and so on and so forth. So big deal. And he's a Syracuse guy. So he once a year he knew I was a big Knick fan through her. And he would give us his seats. He had the VIP seats in the front row, the Spike Lee seats, essentially. This is many, many years ago. I was pretty young, and I was pretty newly married. So I'm down there. You get the waiter service and everything, and they have a bathroom right nearby. I was like, hey, honey, before the game starts, I'm going to just drop in the bathroom. So I run into the bathroom. I come out, and Michael Kay is speaking to my wife, except I come up over his shoulder. He doesn't see me coming. He's hitting on my wife. And now I'm standing there, and I'm catching wind of it. She's looking at me now over his shoulder like, holy crap. So I tap him on the shoulder and I go, Michael, nice to meet you, but that happens to be my wife. And then he just turned around and looked at me. He goes, oh, sorry. Yeah. I was like, okay, we can move along now, can't we? And I kind of puffed out my chest, and we moved along, and I sat in my seat, and I gave him a dirty look as he walked away. That's my Michael K story. He hit on my wife right in front of me. He didn't see me coming up behind him. I was like, all right, she's a good-looking woman, but stay away from my wife, you know what?
Wow, that is, I was not expecting that. That's an all-time. I mean, Michael always talks about it, or like, Don LaGreca, his co-host for many years, had always joked that Kay had a roster back in the day. He got married very late in life, and your wife could have been added to that roster if you didn't step in, Jim.
I got back pretty quickly from that bathroom trip. I might have been the end of me. I wasn't a famous broadcaster back then.
Well, come on. That's got to be like a respect thing, right, Lurch? You're like, wow, okay, Michael K, you know.
It's hard to have a good feeling about a guy after that, Like,
I guess.
That's tough. I appreciate Kay. I've listened to his show. I've watched the Yankee games for years, but I was always like, that's that guy that hit on my wife. Damn it. Stay away from me, Kay.
That's tough. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? But he is a very good guy. At least he's been good to me over the years.
Just keep away from your
okay, there you go. Your significant other, Jake, I guess.
Don't leave their side if Michael K's in the building. That's the lesson to be learned right there.
Wow. What a story.
All right, Jake. Well, this was a hoot, as they say. Glad that you're back from your travels. And anybody that hasn't seen all of Jake's work, please check it out. It's all out there for you. Some terrific interviews down there at the Super Bowl. All kinds of celebrities, all kinds of insiders. It was really, really awesome. So, Jake, we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks as always, my friend.
Jim, anytime. Thank you guys for having me.